The Rock of Gibraltar. Standing at the entrance of the Mediterranean is a monolith of limestone. At 426 meters, it rises majestically over the straits. In the present day, Gibraltar is a flourishing modern city with a population of 30,000 coming and going, living their daily lives. Unbeknownst to many, a vast and complex group of caves crisscrosses the inside of the rock, formed over millennia by the elements that have battered the mighty stone. With 214 officially recorded sites, Gibraltar has one of the highest concentrations of caves in the world for its size. Full of intrigue, wonder, and natural beauty, these natural hollows offer an opening to another way of seeing the rock, an underground Gibraltar. In the twilight hours, as the sun sets and people get ready to settle in for the night, another inhabitant of the rock is only just beginning to stir. Hundreds of microbats from several species funnel out of Gibraltar's caves and tunnels and fill the skies, ready to feast on insects. These elusive nocturnal creatures are some of Gibraltar's most fascinating residents. Jib Bats is a collaborative study of bats in Gibraltar, run by the Gibraltar Museum and the Gibraltar Ornithological and Natural History Society. The project was established in October 2013 when a team of UK specialists led by James Shipman contacted the Gibraltar Museum, Her Majesty's Government of Gibraltar through its Department of the Environment, and GONS, with the aim of starting a project on Gibraltar's bats. A local team comprising of members from the Gibraltar Museum Caving Unit and GONS were trained, and now, after 3 years of hard work, are qualified and licensed to study bats in Gibraltar. The project aims to clearly establish which bat species are resident year-round in Gibraltar, and which species only use the rock during certain times of the year, as well as monitoring roosts for their protection. Jib Bats also aims to raise awareness on the issue of bat conservation, as well as advising the Government of Gibraltar on how to protect these endangered animals, their roosts and habitats, in order to encourage populations to recover to their healthy numbers. Sadly, bats in Gibraltar have suffered a tremendous decline over the past 2 decades. Gibraltar's bat populations, which included various cave-dwelling colonies numbering in the thousands, have crashed to the point that we have lost 99% of these on the rock, with many caves having been deserted altogether. As of March 2016, there are 7 species of bats found in Gibraltar. Recently, the Gibraltar study has expanded. The team is now in collaboration with specialist colleagues from Spain, Morocco and Algeria, looking at the temporal and spatial dynamics of the cave-dwelling species found on the rock. The Gibraltar team is also studying bats at roost sites in southern Andalusia as part of this wider project. This, they hope, will provide invaluable information to set the local project in context and explain why critically endangered species of bats use Gibraltar. This information and understanding will allow the team to better protect our bats. Maintaining a good understanding of Gibraltar's bat population means checking in with known bat roosts and keeping tabs on their numbers throughout the year. Tyson, along with researchers Tasmin and Giovanni, visit one such roost. Due to the sensitive nature of bat conservation, the location of the roost is top secret.
So we're here inside a tunnel system in the Upper Rock in Gibraltar. This is a known colony of Schreiber Bats. It's a cave-dwelling species. We're monitoring this every couple of weeks in order to establish when the numbers are here, and also correlating it to the weather and seeing if that has any effects on the bats itself. We normally come in at the same time of the day, mid-afternoon every 2 weeks. We come inside, we sort of determine whether there are any bats. If there are, we count them. We see if they've got any rings on them, because we've been doing a ringing program and we've ringed these bats just to try and establish when they're here, basically. So we're at the end of February now, and this is when we start to see numbers pick up of this bat in particular in this colony. There were 120 bats here today, and this compares to, I think it was 31 a couple of weeks ago, and no bats for a few weeks before that. So we start seeing numbers sort of progress and get into larger colonies. We've been monitoring this particular colony since the start of the Jib Bats project in 2013. So far we haven't determined that this is a maternity roost, so bats are not coming here to have their young. So we're trying to determine exactly what the bats are doing here. It could be a stopover while they're going to other feeding grounds. We still don't know, but it's quite interesting to see what they are doing here. This is actually the only known roost of this particular bat species in Gibraltar, the Schreiber Bat. There used to be tens of thousands of these in Gibraltar, and there's only this colony left now. And it varies between no bats to up to 700 bats, depending on the time of year. It's really important that we sort of keep these locations secret, because these are very sensitive animals. Any sort of minimum disturbance can basically make them go away and not come back. So we really need to stress the importance of the conservation aspect of these bats in particular. Because of this, the way that we monitor this colony, we only go in with red lights, and we try and be as brief as possible. We go in quickly, do the count, and move out in order to not stress these animals. We're dealing with the Schreiber Bats, Minioptera schreibersi, today. This is a cave-dwelling species, although we're not in a natural cave today, but they also adapt to live inside man-made tunnels and mines as well. They're actually quite a sensitive bat in the sense that they don't like changes. This is a species that normally roosts in tens of thousands or even larger numbers in Iberia. Although we did have larger numbers here in Gibraltar, we've noticed that they have dwindled a lot since the 60s and 70s. It's because they're very susceptible to disturbance of any kind. Any sort of tampering with their environment, people going into caves, unauthorized entries and stuff like that really decimates these populations. So the Schreiber Bat is also known as the common bent-wing bat, and that's because the anatomy of the wing sort of folds in itself. This helps it maneuver in flight quite easily. This animal is an insectivorous bat, so it feeds solely on things like mosquitoes and moths, anything that's flying at night. This is a medium-sized bat. We've got the pipistrelle bats, which are the tiny ones we find in the town mostly in Gibraltar. But this is a medium size, it's slightly larger, it's still quite small. We're talking about 10 to 13 grams in weight, so it's still a fairly small bat. In terms of conservation status, the Schreiber Bat is considered near threatened by the IUCN Red List. They're also considered vulnerable in Iberia in particular due to the dwindling of that species here. The Schreiber Bat is found right across Eurasia. Some of our colleagues in the National Park of Doñana are studying this particular bat in Morocco, northern Morocco. And they've actually found there to be a cryptic species which looks just exactly like the Minioptera schreibersi, which we find here. A cryptic species is basically a species that you can't tell that it's different other than by doing very close examination of bones and their actual DNA. But it's actually a different species. They've called it the Miniopterus maghrebensis, which is particular to the north of Africa.
A few days later, another team headed by Stuart Finlayson, Director of Natural History, heads up the rock in the early evening to get ready for some fieldwork.
We've come up the rock. It's undisclosed site that we're working at. We've been working here for about 3 years now. We're specifically looking at the Schreiber Bat tonight, and we've got a project ongoing where we're ringing some of these individuals, and we're also taking DNA samples from them. DNA is basically offering us a closer look into the actual species. It's very important for us because the Schreiber Bat only recently has been divided into two species. You've got the Schreiber Bat that you find in Europe, if you like, and you've also got the new species called the maghrebensis, which is found in North Morocco. And what we're trying to do with the DNA is actually find if we've got the European Schreibers or the North African Schreibers. So as you can see, it's late evening now. Part of our team is inside at the moment, and they'll be setting up a mist net. We'll be using that to catch a few individuals, and then we'll start with the sampling. You'll get a chance to see them. These nights can be quite successful, but this species is usually quite active in the winter months and now in spring. Summer isn't their preferred period. In fact, during summer they're using colonies in Spain. These checks, this kind of mist netting session, we try to do them about twice a month. It's to get a good idea of which individuals are using this colony and at what time of the year and so on.
This week, the museum hosted several visitors from bat groups in the UK who visited Gibraltar, drawn to the prospect of studying several different species of bat.
I'm Tina Whiffen, I'm from the Northumberland Bat Group. It's my first time in Gibraltar. I've come over to see different species to those we have at home and hopefully help with the project. Our main projects are looking at hibernating bats. We're looking at the Nethusius pipistrelle, which is a known migrant within Northern Europe, fairly recently discovered to be migrant into the UK. I was invited over to, hopefully lend a hand, but really it's, from my point of view, it's to see different species, like the Schreiber bat that we're looking at tonight. I've never seen those, we don't get those in the UK. And just to see so many bats in the tunnel is phenomenal. We just don't have the numbers. The Anabat detector that I'm using is probably quite old technology now, but I really like it because it records in broadband, so it's recording all frequencies at the same time. And with the screen on it, you can actually see the echolocation calls at the same time as the bat's making them. And it also allows you to analyse the calls later using a computer to try and work out which species they are. Again, these are species I know nothing about, and in Northumberland we can identify probably 6 of our species confidently with calls, but not all of them. Different bats are using different frequencies. These Schreiber bats are around sort of 50 kilohertz. The free-tail bats are much lower, sort of below 15 kilohertz. So again, different species are using calls in different ways to hunt and navigate. Most of the calls we're picking up are actually the bats navigating. They're looking where they're going, and they're using the sound to effectively see where they're going and look for their prey. And as they're homing in on an insect, the pulses change. They echolocate more quickly to fine-tune where the insect is. So a lot of what we're eavesdropping is just bats going about their daily business.
What this is a fairly simple bat detector, but you can move the frequency to try and hear the bats that are flying around at particular frequencies. So the Schreibers we've got here in Gibraltar echolocate at 53 kilohertz. That's their maximum output, and if we point it around in the sky, if one's flying over, it'll make a sound on here which we can pick up and is audible. The other bat we've got flying around this evening is the free-tail bat. The free-tail bat echolocates at around 10 to 12 kilohertz, and if one was flying by we would hear that make a sound on here. But the most common ones flying around this evening are the Schreibers, so when one comes by you'll hear the sound of a Schreiber's bat, hopefully. That was the sound of the Schreibers.
As soon as the calls are detected, it's not long before the nets supply our team with their first specimens for the night. Carefully, the bats are removed from the nets for inspection. The bats remain quite calm and are not particularly stressed by the activity. These excursions where bats are caught in nets and humanely processed are necessary to monitor bat activity. A variety of tests check up on the well-being of our local bats. After a short round of study, the bats are returned safely to the skies.
At the moment what we're doing is we're punching tiny little holes. This is 2 millimeters in size in the bat's wing. I know it sounds horrible, but the animal isn't affected in any way. It's not hurt. It makes a little circular incision into the wing, and it allows us to take a little sample from it. The DNA we can then examine in the lab to determine exactly if it's a Schreiber's bat or one of these new migrabensis of Schreiber's bat that have been found recently in North Africa. The tiny little hole, as you've seen, it doesn't hurt the animal in any way at all, and within, I wouldn't say more than 2 weeks, it'll be completely healed back, and when we catch the bat again you'll see that there's no hole. We have to be very careful, and it's all under license that we're doing this from the Ministry of Environment, and you have to take some serious training, and basically you need to avoid all the little veins and so on. But perfectly happy bat if you want to see him release.